Introduce our guest speaker.
Tonight's speaker is Mr. Clark Crawford. He has over 25 years' experience in transforming innovative technology into commercial success and leads the sales, business, and project development for Soitec Ceo, managing the company's U.S. headquarters located in La Jolla, California, and is responsible for selling and deploying Soitec's concentrated photovoltaic (CPV) technology in the U.S. market. His team was instrumental in Soitec recently announcing investment in a San Diego factory, coinciding with a major customer signing a power purchase agreement, PPA, with SDG&E for a 150 megawatt solar power plant using the concentric technology, the largest announced CPV project to date. In addition, he led the development of a 155 megawatt of solar power projects which recently signed PPAs with SDG&E and will also utilize the concentric technology. Clark is experienced in the breadth of CPV technologies, having led the sales and market development efforts for two of industry's leading CPV companies. Prior to his current role, he led sales and business development at Ammonex Incorporated and was instrumental in the company raising $129 million in Series B funding while securing the company's first commercial orders, including the 30 megawatt Alamosa solar generating project, the largest announced CPV project at the time. Prior to Ammonex, he held positions at Xerox PARC and Idealab. He earned both a BS and MS degree in mechanical engineering and holds an MBA from the University of Southern California. Kindly give a warm welcome to Mr. Clark Crawford.
Thank you very much, Scott. I appreciate the opportunity to address you tonight and introduce Soitec Ceo. We are a solar equipment manufacturer. What we make is something called concentrated photovoltaics. That's a fancy term for what you and I used to do as kids in taking a magnifying glass out in the sun and burning things with it. We focus the light using a lens down to a very small solar cell. And we're able to minimize the cost of solar electricity by using lots of lenses and a small amount of solar cell material. Actually, we are building a factory right now in Rancho Bernardo. We purchased one of the Sony buildings up near the Sony campus and had a dedication in mid-December involving the governor. And we are now under construction at that building to equip it to manufacture our solar modules. This is a corner of our solar module. I'll pass it around so each one of you can see the construction. But this is the module that we'll be manufacturing in our building in Rancho Bernardo here. It's a bit like a very thick dual pane window where the front of the glass has the lens and the back of the glass has individual heat sinks. In the middle of those heat sinks is a little black tiny spot, and that's all of the solar cell material that we use. We're able with this technology to convert a quarter of the incoming sunlight to usable electricity. And that's tremendously higher efficiency than any of the other solar technologies. The typical solar panel that you might put on your roof is 2 to 3 times less efficient. So we are a utility scale solar equipment manufacturer. Let me see if I can get this projecting. It went into standby, so it might take a few seconds here. We're really happy to be in Rancho Bernardo. We looked far and wide when we decided to come to the U.S. market. That was about 2 years ago. We decided to come to the U.S. I was hired to open an office, a sales office here in San Diego. And when I started, we were 5 people in the kitchen of one of our employees, and that was our office environment. Very shortly after that, we rented an office suite in La Jolla. We've now had to move into a much larger space in La Jolla, and we're waiting to move into our Rancho Bernardo facility, which will start. Our first wave of employees move in there in July. About 30 of us are in La Jolla right now, and we'll move in to the Rancho Bernardo building in September. Let me see if I can get this focused.
Is this strictly a commercial application?
This is, the question is this strictly for commercial application? These are not solar panels you're going to put up on your roof. These are utility scale solar panels that's meant for large solar farms out in the desert and generating electricity at a very large scale. We have one project that is our customer's project over in Imperial Valley that will be nearly 2 square miles covered with solar systems. That's enough electricity on those 2 square miles to generate enough electricity for about 55,000 homes in San Diego. So this is very large scale solar generation. This is really feasible to generate electricity at such a large scale using solar. Let me introduce Soitec a little bit first, give you a background on the company. First of all, we are a 20-year-old company. We're a semiconductor company. We have 1,400 employees globally, and with the Rancho Bernardo factory, we will own and operate 6 factories globally. The company is based in France, outside of Grenoble. This is our existing solar manufacturing facility in Freiburg, Germany. About 2 years ago, Soitec, which is a publicly traded semiconductor company, we're listed and traded on the Paris Stock Exchange under the trading symbol of SOI, if you're interested in following our stock. About 2 years ago, the company realized that it had some technology, semiconductor technology, that could make a better solar cell for concentrated photovoltaics. So they went and acquired Concentric Solar. So our technology at this point is called Concentrix by Soitec. And the Concentrix technology is the module and the tracker. So at this point we sell a complete solar system. And our technology, it consists of a lens that focuses light down to a tiny solar cell. And then we package those lens solar cell combinations into a module. And you're seeing, passing around right now, a corner cross-section of one of those modules. And then those modules go on to a tracker. Once you concentrate or focus the light from the lens down to a solar cell, you need to track the sun in order to keep the light focused where you want it to be. This is a video that gives you a much better sense of how our technology works. So you see the light come through the lens, focus down to the solar cell. And we are using a special solar cell. It's called a multi-junction solar cell. These are the same solar cells that are used in space today to power satellites. It's basically 3 solar cells on top of each other. Each one of those solar cells responds to a different spectrum of the light. Then there's 200 of those lens solar cell combinations that are packaged into a frame. It's a bit like a dual-pane window. And those are put onto a tracker. And this animation goes now to our real tracker at UC San Diego, waking up in the morning, facing the sun, and then tracking the sun over the course of the day. It both rotates and it tilts up and down to always stay perpendicular to the sun. And you can see it's a fairly windy day with the clouds passing by. You can see the trees over here wiggling, and yet you can see how stiff our tracking structure is. This thing is as big, much bigger than a billboard that you might see along the highway. To give you a sense, the square footage facing the sun is about 1,200 square feet. So think about the square footage of a modest-sized home up in the air and tracking the sun over the course of the day. And in that surface area, in that square footage, we're able to generate enough electricity to run about 15 homes. And so this is a very highly efficient solar technology. That's why we're able to do it at such a large scale and do it cost effectively, that we're competitive with other ways of making electricity for peak power in California. So one of the reasons we're here in San Diego is because of a partnership with SDG&E. And SDG&E has signed 305 megawatts of power purchase agreements using our technology. Half of that, 150 megawatts, is for a customer's project called Tenaska. And Tenaska has this project over in Imperial Valley that would cover two square miles and be equivalent to powering about 55,000 homes. That project is on track to start construction next year and using the equipment that we'll be manufacturing in our Rancho Bernardo factory. And then separately, we have 155 megawatts of PPAs that SDG&E has signed for projects, solar farms, that we're developing in eastern San Diego County. These are our projects that Soitec is developing. I have, in addition to salespeople selling our equipment to other customers, we're developing our own solar farm projects to use this equipment. This picture is actually from March of last year, March 10th. We announced SDG&E, this is Jim Avery, who lives not far from here in Poway, and is the Senior Vice President of Generation for SDG&E. His responsibility is making sure there's enough generating capacity to keep the lights on. Even this summer, without San Onofre, he's going to figure out how we don't have power outages. But anyway, he's talking about the signing of a power purchase agreement with our customer, and this is Bart Ford from Tenaska, our customer. This is our founder of Soitec, founded the company over 20 years ago, Andre Alberton. And what I like about this picture, it's all of the groups and organizations that were involved in collaborating to bring Soitec to San Diego. So obviously you got SDG&E, you have the mayor's office here that was very key and instrumental in us deciding on San Diego. You have Lori Saba from San Diego Regional Economic Development Corporation. This is Jason Anderson from Clean Tech San Diego. And finally, this is the Dean of Engineering at UC San Diego. And he's one of the first reasons that we're here in San Diego. When our German, my German coworkers decided they wanted to enter the U.S. market, the first thing they did is they wanted to install this demonstration tracker that you see behind the participants here, and that's on the campus of UC San Diego. And one of our founders in the German company, Frieder Seibel here, is a distant cousin. So it's a relationship, a distant relationship that brought us to San Diego. And obviously it's all these relationships that collaborated to make us decide to locate here. This is a picture of Governor Brown in mid-December at our factory. By the way, this is our building. And if you look really carefully through the leaves of the trees, you can still see the Sony sign on it. This is where they used to manufacture the Trinitron TVs, and that manufacturing went to Mexico. Then they manufactured the Vio laptops, and most recently it was used for service and warranty repair of the Vio laptops by Sony. We were looking far and wide once we decided on San Diego, on where we would locate this factory. And we looked at all of available buildings in San Diego region that were above 200,000 square feet. And we looked from as far south from Otay Mesa to as far north as Oceanside. And we were in lease negotiations for the Summit building. Does everybody know where the Summit building is? It's the old NCR manufacturing building. That building was bigger than we needed it to be. It's about 500,000 square foot, but we were looking at leasing half of that building. And we were having a very, very difficult time with the landlord. The landlord is, I don't think he's all that interested in leasing that building, particularly to a manufacturer. So we were having difficulties in things like getting them to take care of the asbestos that was already in the building. He thought it was our problem as a tenant to take care of that. So in the midst of these difficult lease negotiations, we found out that Sony was interested in selling this building. And Soitec is a very cash-rich company. We have about $400 million on our balance sheet. Our annual revenue is about $400 million. But because we compete in the semiconductor business, it's very cyclical, up and down, up and down. You need to have a nice nest egg, so to speak, to weather the storm and to weather a recession like we recently had. And so we had the cash to go out and buy this building. This building, one of the things we liked about it is it comes with 5 acres behind it, which will allow us to expand on this site and double our production capacity. So we purchased this building for $29 million, and we plan on eventually increasing the production to twice the capacity. This entirely, this factory represents over $160 million investment for us. We will start bringing in July our automated manufacturing equipment, and that equipment is very expensive. That equipment represents probably a $100 million investment in itself. This factory at full production will employ about 450 people. I've worked with the San Diego Workforce Partnership to understand the economic impact of the jobs we're creating. That creates another 1,000 indirect jobs in the local area. And we plan on being in production at the end of the year in this facility. This gives you a glimpse of the manufacturing, the automation that's involved in manufacturing our equipment. This equipment is very much like semiconductor packaging equipment. It's all automated. This equipment is at the end of the step, which is the glass lenses that are sealed to the frame. And this equipment is from the dual pane window industry. But from the time the glass goes into the factory until the modules come out of the factory, and this is a picture of one of our modules, there's essentially no human touching the glass or the modules. And so our employees, our production workers, are not low-level assembly jobs. They are very good paying computer engineers and computer technicians. And I'm happy to say we are starting to hire people now for our production. We hired 29 people fairly recently with the understanding, imagine this, we hired 29 people with the understanding that they would spend the first 4 months at Soitec in Europe learning our processes. And those folks have been over there a couple of months now. They come back at the end of June. And at that point in time, they will know all of these processes and will be transferring this technology back in the heads, in the minds, and the experience in the hands of the people that have actually done it now in our factory over in Germany. And oh, by the way, I should point out the module that we're manufacturing in our San Diego factory is 8 feet wide and 12 feet long. It has an output about 2,500 watts, so that will power a hairdryer itself. And it's sized so that we get it into a container for shipping around the desert Southwest and internationally if we choose to do so. This is an overview of the CPV market, the concentrated photovoltaic market. It's an innovative technology that's starting to emerge for utility scale solar electricity generation. These are the areas of the world that have announced projects and contracts. And you can see the majority of the announced contracts using this technology by ourselves and our competition is in the US. And even more importantly, most of that is in the state of California. It's a technology that's ideally suited to the California climate and producing electricity in the desert Southwest. That's why we're located in San Diego, is because from our San Diego factory we can address most of our power plant locations in the desert Southwest. I'm happy to say that we are moving into this building starting in the July timeframe, and as I mentioned earlier, my existing team in La Jolla will be moving in and joining in the September timeframe. We are starting to reach out and get involved in the community. I hope to have a very positive relationship with the community council here. We also are a member of the North County Chamber of Commerce. I'm a board member of the San Diego Regional Economic Development Corporation. Many of you may know the annual dinner for the EDC was last night. Mayor Sanders spoke as the keynote speaker. I'm also a board member on the Clean Tech San Diego organization. And the Clean Tech San Diego organization was started by Mayor Sanders. It's all about fostering an industry association to bring clean technology and clean manufacturing to the local area, to the San Diego area. And we're a great example of the product of the collaboration of that organization and the rest of the organizations in San Diego. So I thank you for the time that you've given me, the opportunity to speak in front of you. Very happy to be coming to Rancho Bernardo. I look forward to working here and being in the community on an ongoing basis. Thank you.
I'm not the only one that's got some questions, but I'll start off. Two questions. First of all, where did they come with the name Soitec? What does it mean? Or...
So that's a good question. Our trading symbol is SOI. And SOI is an acronym for the semiconductor technology that Soitec was founded on. It stands for silicon on insulator. It's a very high performance wafer that's used to produce, as a substrate to produce microprocessors that are in game controllers. You probably have one at home in game controllers, in smartphones and other devices. Soitec is a bit like Intel. It has that problem of being in a lot of different devices, but nobody knows because it's a component.
So these are the last month we had SDG, a couple people from SDG&E come, and they were talking about the solar trees that they have in some, that are in some. You can some companies have them in their parking lots, and they move with the sun. Is this look like?
It's a very similar idea. You wouldn't refer to these as solar trees. We refer to trackers. But essentially, it's a device that's following the sun over the course of the day to maximize the output from solar electricity.
Are you going to be giving tours?
Absolutely.
We'd like to be one of your first group.
We're happy to do that. There is a solar finance conference that's held twice a year at the Rancho Bernardo Inn. Their next meeting is in November, and we expect to have an open house and be able to bring the finance community, the bankers that are investing in large-scale solar farms, to bring them into our factory. That'd be a great time to have you over and show you some of the operations and this equipment actually working.
Who else has questions?
Sure.
You're saying you bring the equipment from Europe, Germany. So is it in metric? And we are going to do what to the English system?
So we're not only bilingual, we work in both number systems, metric and English. And the equipment that we use, that $100 million of equipment they're going to fill the building with, comes from throughout the world. Probably about 50% of it is sourced in the US, a percentage of it is sourced in Asia, and then some in Europe as well.
So is it all going to be in English system, or is it going to be in metric?
We are using both systems. If you look at our product brochure, it's labeled in millimeters in the metric system, and it's labeled in inches.
Well, you know about serious problems that have occurred in certain things across the technology world in trying to convert from English to metric.
Yeah.
But that's another issue. The other question I have, the type of people that you said you're going to employ there, basically going to be computer type programmers and so forth, and obviously you're going to have, so the pay scale is going to be fairly high.
Yeah, I mean, these are good paying jobs. These are quality jobs. If you looked at those 450 jobs, about 100 of those are executive management, sales, marketing, business development, legal, and finance. 100 office workers. The rest are manufacturing jobs. If you looked at those 450 jobs and calculated an average salary, it's over $50,000 a year.
Very nice.
For those jobs, are you looking locally or are you going out across the nation?
That's a very good question. Soitec has experience in building factories in various locations and knows how to go about doing this. The last factory we built was in Singapore. And I'm happy to say that they know how to go into a community and understand how to source labor and materials local to the extent that they're able to. So we're working with a local staffing agency, East Ridge Staffing. They're helping us. They're the ones that brought us the 29 people that are over in Europe being trained right now. If you look at the 450 jobs, we expect 95% of those people are going to be hired locally.
Any other questions? Harold?
Yeah, a few, please. The material you're using, where's that source? Where's that coming from? And the lens, is that, I couldn't tell, is that glass or is that plastic? And how's that manufactured? Is that ground or is that?
So it's a piece of glass,
Okay.
and then on the inside we emboss a very thin layer of silicone.
I saw that. But the lens itself, how'd you get the lens?
It's just ridges.
Or is it ground?
No, it's actually a layer of silicone, a very thin layer of silicone that's bonded to the back surface of the glass. And we were going to be, in the building in Rancho Bernardo, we also have a joint venture. And our supplier of that lens is going to be manufacturing the lens in our own factory. And that operation of manufacturing the lens, while we are not operating it, it's being operated for us, and it will be employing about 100 people.
Yeah, one more, please.
Sure.
With SDG&E, you got a 25-year contract with them, and we're the ratepayers. We are the funding source for SDG&E. What is this deal that you have with them going to do to us as like residential or business ratepayers?
Sure. So first of all, those contracts that were signed with us were signed using a competitive bid process, so they're at market price. The other thing that you should be aware, utility-generated solar electricity is cost competitive with the other ways of generating electricity for peak power. Peak power is that power that's needed when the system is peaking at its peak. So, for instance, the most likely peak time is in the summer, late in the afternoon, when we all have our air conditioners on. So, in that situation, our systems are generating at their peak also, and they're generating electricity as inexpensively as SDG&E can produce it using a gas-fired power plant. So we're at what's called grid parity. You can produce solar electricity cost-effective with other ways of making electricity.
Thank you.
So the great thing about this point in time is, large-scale solar generation is coming true. It's going to become a reality. Remember I talked about this customer's project over in the Imperial Valley. It's 2 square miles. Well, the 8 freeway happens to go right through the middle of it. So the end of next year, you're going to be able, as you go to the Imperial Valley on Highway 8, you're going to drive through a solar farm. It's going to be the world's largest drive-through solar farm. And there's going to be 6,000 of our trackers that I showed you the video of. Each one of those are going to have Soitec on it. So you'll see Soitec and you'll know that it's the manufacturer that's in Rancho Bernardo.
So instead of the wind farms that we see, we're going to see these instead.
Exactly. Yeah, it'd be just like driving the 10 freeway through Palm Springs area and seeing those big wind farms. Sure.
Maintenance of the system once it's in the field,
Sure.
in terms of you have to go out there every X months or years to clean or replace or what? Your past experience on other systems.
Sure. So we have a very large plant. We have a plant in Mexico, New Mexico, using this technology. There's 173 of the trackers that we have over in UC San Diego. And so we have the metrics on what the maintenance needs are. We're operating that plant today. Let me say this. These solar farms are power plants. You know, people are going to go there every day to work and operate and maintain that equipment. So that solar farm that I talked about in the Imperial Valley that's covering two square miles, it's 6,000 of those big trackers. And that project will be built in the Imperial Valley over 27 months. It will generate 300 jobs during its construction. So we're not only generating jobs in Rancho Bernardo in the factory, but we're also generating jobs over in Imperial Valley. And as you all know, Imperial Valley desperately needs the jobs. Imperial Valley has probably the highest unemployment rate in the nation. And their unemployment rate approaches 30%. And then these power plants require a crew of about 30, continually operating them for 25 years. So that's 750 job years. So it's a significant amount of jobs in owning and operating these plants long term. And this is going on a piece of fallow farm ground that hasn't been farmed for 20 years. So that piece of ground has not generated any economic income for Imperial Valley in the last 20 years. And it represents, on the part of the owner, about a $500 million investment in Imperial Valley. So these are significant economic development engines.
Are they built for earthquakes?
Absolutely. We have to design these for this earthquake zone, which is some of the toughest in the world.
Did you have a question?
Larry,
Any other questions? This was so fascinating. I'm sorry we didn't have a larger audience for you, but it really was. And the best part about this is that we videotape our guest speakers and we put it on our Facebook page, and so residents can go and they watch it because for whatever reason they haven't been able to attend. So
Oh, that's fantastic.
yes. So thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.